You're listening to the Clutter Fairy Weekly, a weekly webcast and podcast brought to you by the Clutter Fairy in Houston, Texas. If you'd like to participate in one of our live webcasts, please visit cfhou.com/weekly. You'll find a calendar of upcoming webcasts, as well as instructions for joining the Zoom meeting via the app or by phone. We'd love to see you. That URL again is cfhou.com/weekly. Now here's the weekly episode. Enjoy.
Hi, Clutter Fairy fans. This is the Clutter Fairy Weekly for April 22nd, 2025. I'm your co-host, Ed Gumnick, and I'm I'm speaking with Gayle Goddard, certified professional organizer and owner of the Clutter Fairy in Houston, Texas.
Hi, everybody. The Clutter Fairy Weekly is the webcast and podcast that digs deep into the clutter that piles up between you and the life you want to be living. We explore the habits and behaviors that lead to clutter, and we suggest strategies to slow the accumulation, reduce the collection, and comfortably manage the stuff we decide to keep.
If you're new to our Zoom meeting, we want to let you know that you can share your comments and questions via the chat feature, and I'll try to make sure Gayle addresses them before we move on to another topic. You can also use the raise hand feature if you'd like to ask a question or make a comment yourself via audio or video. And we are streaming the webcast live on Facebook, so you can share your questions and comments there, and I'll relay them to Gayle. We're going to start by talking about last week's weekly tittle.
Last 2
sorry,
weeks ago.
3 weeks.
3 weeks
the
ago.
last weekly tittle, which was called Seeking Clarity. The assignment was to bring clarity to an organizing project or category of stuff that you find difficult or confusing. Let's hear from our participants in Zoom and on Facebook who tried our clarity-enhancing suggestions this week. Please let us know in the comments. While we wait for people to chime in, I thought you and I could talk about whether we've gotten any clarity as we move through our moving process.
Right? The moving process.
What do you have to report in the way of progress on wrapping up the last bits of your move, Gayle?
So I had a stack of like 9 boxes that were next to the built-in cabinets, and I took a Saturday a couple of weeks ago and opened all those boxes and put all the books up. And then there was some of it that was bead stuff that I still have to put away, but I managed to get 9 boxes out of the house, which had been sitting in sort of, in the part of the pathway a little bit, making me walk by them and feel bad every time I went limping past them. So I finally managed to get those out, which was great. And I'm left with one stack of boxes that mostly have decor in them. By the dining room window. So I'm waiting on, that's the next big frontier to tackle. And my knees are improving, and so I'm able to do a little bit more than I was before. I just have to be a little bit more careful as I don't spend too much time standing. So I'm doing all right, and getting back to it again, which is great. I spent so many months I'm not even being able to move around the house at all. So that was like, woohoo, all the bead boxes. I mean, all the book boxes are put away. That was a big deal.
Excellent.
What about you?
Well,
Mr. I just moved a minute ago.
I have to start with a confession, which is that we did not do as much advanced work and planning and preparation for our move as we should have, considering
right.
that we should know so much better.
Right? You should.
And so I forced my dear partner to move a whole bunch of boxes of paper that I should have dealt with a long time ago. Some of the paper I have been working on since the move is stuff that has been moved at least 4 or 5 times.
Oh, Ed. Oh my gosh. I did
yeah.
not realize that.
My dirty little secret.
That is your dirty little secret.
It's
oh my
out there.
gosh.
But as I was looking through our social media for, any reports that sounded like they were in response to the tittle that we talked about, the Seeking Clarity tittle.
Yeah.
I thought, well, what I have done that has been very effective for me is the get into action. I have said, okay, I'm going to tackle paper for 25 minutes a day. And I haven't done it like it hasn't been clockwork. I can't say that, but I probably have averaged at least 4 days a week of 25 minutes a day since the move.
That's
And
2 hours, baby.
so it's adding up. And with paper that's been moved numerous times, there's an awful lot of it that can go straight
It
into the
is
trash.
so marinated, right?
The,
Like that
the
is well marinated if it's made it through 5 moves.
yeah. And so
Some of
lots
that paper
move.
came from Houston, that means.
Oh yeah. Oh gosh, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Oh my
And
gosh.
not even from the last place we lived in Houston. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ed.
Shame,
Oh my gosh, that's
hanging my
so
head.
funny.
And
But I'm so glad that it's like you've narrowed down the other stuff enough that now that is a collection of stuff that is contained and obviously ready to be processed, and you're making time for it. And that is awesome
yeah.
because it will, everything you throw away like that, you said to me before, you can throw big chunks of it away at once. I mean, you're going to get rid of this stuff and you're going to be down to nothing. And what was the percentage you told me that you kept?
Oh, I would say something under 5%
Which is awesome.
of what I've been through so far.
Yeah, keep it up. Let's
Yeah.
cheer for Ed.
Thank you, thank
Yay.
you, thank you.
And
Okay.
keep it up, man, because you are going to be so happy those boxes are not anywhere stored in your apartment and not having to be stored somewhere else and just out of your face. So good job.
Yes. We also found some boxes from Houston that never got unpacked at the two places we have lived previously in
Oh my
Chattanooga.
goodness. Yep.
And one of those also turned out to be paper. I think the others were all paperback books. So I have some book culling to do.
Oh my goodness.
But I've already done some book culling. I really have worked several parts of our Seeking Clarity tittle because that sort of fell in the category of design and algorithm. We're always
Yeah.
telling people design an algorithm,
Hmm.
um, so that your decision making is mechanical instead of agonizing.
Torturous, right?
And so this time I was even more brutal. Uh, Jaime had given me stacks of hardback books that we'd saved from previous moves and said, let's let's narrow these down. And so one of the algorithmic points I chose this time was business books. I'm not going to read any more business books. I've decided I'm done reading business books. I've never been that interested in the business of business. I'm much more interested in content and,
Creativity.
community and creativity. And so,
Mm.
yeah, not going to read any of the business books that I thought someday I was going to read. So I let a whole bunch of those go. Okay,
Awesome.
we should talk about what our audience is reporting on Tittles. And
Okay.
we don't have a lot of reports so far, but M says I was working on my closet today, and she says it doesn't look like our background.
Yeah, do you see that they made them color coordinated as well? Like there's not actually a closet that looks like this. They made it, pink and yellow for fun. And I defy anybody to have a closet that looks that color coordinated. We all have way too many, colors in our life besides that. So yeah, this is, well and truly staged as a closet. Not a realistic one. It's a Pinterest one.
Right? Deborah says I had a week off for Easter holidays, planned to work on my paperwork. Did I? No. Did I spend 3 whole days reading 4 books? Yes. Yes, I did.
Oh, and that's what you should do with your time off, right? Like you should entertain yourself and be happy, right? It's all right. The paperwork will wait. You can get back to it another day. We've all
M
been there.
M says I am thinking of starting a worm bin, vermicomposting to get rid of paper and make potting soil.
Oh, that's fun.
That's
Let the
kind of
worms
cool.
eat your
Yeah.
paper. I like it.
Now the question is, how many worms would I need to eat
All of the paper
the
that you
400 pounds of paper that I've thrown away? I
That is
might
a
need
serious
like
worm farm. That's
an
what that is.
entire, I was going to say, I might need like an acre of worms for my paper.
That is hilarious. Oh my gosh, so true.
Um, also commented on the background, nothing in that closet to one, wear in the winter, two, wear to a funeral.
Exactly, exactly.
It's true. It's
This is
true.
a spring, a spring girly wardrobe right there.
Yeah. Okay, I think we should get on with our main topic.
Okay.
Working with a professional organizer can help you take the fast lane to functional, clutter-free spaces. But even if you can't hire an organizer, you can handle your decluttering and organizing projects with a professional's care, creativity, and attention to detail. Today, we're going to discuss the process of working with a professional organizer and how you can apply a professional approach to managing your own projects.
Today's topic, working with a professional organizer, is one I've mentioned in passing before now, but haven't really covered in any detail. And since I work as an organizer full time, I can cover the process for you and hopefully make it less intimidating. A lot of my clients find calling and asking for help very intimidating. So I'm hoping to demystify it for you a little bit and maybe make it less stressful. When you finally decide that you need help getting your decluttering project done, you may decide to hire an organizer. Making that decision alone is often a hard one, especially if you feel overwhelmed by the project or ashamed that you can't do it yourself. A lot of clients call me and tell me they feel bad about not being able to do it themselves. You're likely scared to even make the first phone call. If you've never hired an organizer before, you really don't know what the process will be like, and that not knowing can be scary too. And also push all of your buttons about trust and feeling safe. So let me give you an idea of what using an organizer looks like and hopefully make it easier to call for help. All organizers have some type of assessment process where when you first call them up, it can be as simple as a short conversation on the phone to gather some job details at no cost, all the way to a home visit with a written follow-up report and that costs a fee, plus everything in between those ranges. So this changes based on the organizer and the type of jobs that they do, how big their company is, and how they like to run their business. I myself will ask some basic questions about the job when you call me. Then I offer a free 1 hour in home assessment and I'll ask questions as I walk through the space. Others have a form with preset questions about the job and about the environment that they ask you to fill out. Regardless of any organizer's intake process, we're all trying to find out some basic details about your project, like what do you want to get done? What's the timeline? Is there a deadline? Where do you live? In other words, are we actually servicing that area that you're calling from? What size of house is it? Who else lives there? Are they participating in the process? How do you feel? What's your feelings about the process? What led you to call an organizer? What are you struggling to do? What have been your obstacles so far? What are the first priorities that you want to work on? Are there pets in the house? Are there guns in the house? What times of the week or weekend can you schedule an appointment? This is a short list. It may feel like a longer list having read it, but it could be a lot longer depending on the organizer. But armed with the answers to the questions and having made a basic walkthrough of your home, we can plan how to tackle the job and achieve your organizing goals. Often during these early contacts, the customers ask for an estimate of the job cost. Some organizers are more reluctant to do this, but usually an experienced organizer can make a good faith estimate of the job. These are just estimates though, because we can generally tell how long it would take us to do the job if we didn't have to ask for any of your input. But no customer wants out of it completely. So the customer impacts the speed at which the job can be done. If you have trouble making decisions about what to keep and what to toss, or we're working with a bunch of items that are very emotionally triggering for you, and you need to move through them carefully and process your emotions as you go, it'll take a lot longer. Also, if we can't reach or see all the areas that we have to clear, we can't actually see everything that needs handling. There may be way more in there than we can see, so the density of the mess impacts the time needed too. Keep that in mind if an organizer doesn't want to estimate or if they make an estimate and have to change it as they do the work, they may suddenly open a closet that they didn't realize was there because it was covered with stuff, or you told them what you thought was in there, and then when we opened the door, it turned out to be something completely different. So those kinds of surprises pop up at the job, and there are more surprises the more dense the space is. So the estimate's always going to be impacted by that. Once you get past the assessment process, then you schedule a work appointment or maybe a few appointments, depending on how the organizer schedules their jobs. You'll get reminders of appointments ahead of the actual dates, and the organizer will show up with their preferred tools and supplies. We all carry a kit of tools and supplies we like to use, and we also will use whatever you have. Some organizers carry and sell organizing containers, while some others use what you have and suggest specific containers for you to go buy when the organizer thinks they're needed. So you and the organizer work together on the project, and we most always work together as a team on it, with the organizer directing the workflow and checking in with you throughout the process.
Gayle, let me
Yes.
interrupt you just for a second and ask, do you ever have clients who are hands off? Do you have any who sort of give you some guidance and just turn you loose?
So it is an option. It doesn't happen to me very often because I don't typically attract those kinds of clients that feel comfortable with me doing it alone.
Yeah.
Other people prefer that kind of work, and they're like, give me the closet, I'll take care of it. And they'll do a bunch of work, and they'll go and talk to the organizer. I mean, they'll go and talk to the client for a little while and let them make some choices and go back in with the person not there helping. It's not a process that I tend to do because I think I end up making a closet that looks pretty to me
Right.
without much input from the client. And then I feel like the rest, it's kind of a recipe for that to fail.
For disappointment. Or,
Yeah, like it looks
yeah.
pretty at the end, but then the client can't keep it up because of fill in the blank, right?
Yeah.
And so
Because it
typically
doesn't
I don't do
reflect
that.
them effectively.
And the times that I have done it, I have found that I end up organizing a bunch of stuff that I think, man, this stuff should really go. This stuff should not be here. This stuff needed to be edited.
Yeah.
And yet, if they're not willing to edit, then I end up trying to cram into the space all the stuff, everything that they didn't want to think or talk about.
Yeah.
And it's not the best end result. So there you go. So the organizer and you're going to work together. We were talking about that. And the organizer is going to direct the workflow and check in with you as we go. The organizer is going to try to start and wrap up an area during an appointment. So wherever you're working, it isn't like pulled out and destroyed and left that way when they leave. No organizer wants to come in and start a process and tear it all apart and make it look worse and then go home. Like they don't want to leave you in that place. So they're going to try to pick an area that they can start and wrap up for an appointment. And then they'll spend a bit of time at the end to reset everything. So it's a manageable space until they come back for the next appointment. So they're not going to try to make it impossible for you to get in and out of that area. They're going to try to reset it so that it can still be worked in or walked around or not be in the way until they come to pick up the project again the next time they come back. And they're going to pick that area based on what portion they think they complete for that day. Part of the process is going to include setting up storage systems. The organizer is there to evaluate what you'll keep and decide how best to store for easy use and easy storage when it's not being used. So what I mean by that is that the organizer is going to separate the things you use all the time from what you use less often or not at all. And then they'll set up storage parking spaces for what you use all the time. And these are going to be the easiest to access, close to where you use them, etc. And then they'll help you decide where best to store what you don't use very often. And it's going to likely be a harder spot to access, but since you don't need stuff from it very often, that's the best compromise. They want to use the easiest access space for the things that you're using all the time. And then the less desirable, less easily accessed spaces for the stuff that you don't use all the time. And just making that distinction is something that most people don't think about when they're unpacking in a place. It's the kitchen, therefore they shove it all into the cabinets. Right. And they don't think about, so all these things that are in these 3 cabinets, am I using this stuff all the time? And if not, then why are they in the prime real estate? And so most people have less kitchen storage than they wish. And if they fill it up with all the stuff they're not using all the time, then they find that the kitchen much harder to navigate. And so that kinds of evaluation is part of what you're hiring an organizer to do. At the end of the appointment, they're going to help you take out the trash and recycling and load donations into their car. Most organizers take donations out as part of the work. Depending on the organizer, you may be asked to pay at the end, or you could be billed later for the job. And after that, it's rinse and repeat as you work on the project. And then you get to declare when the job is done. I'll tell you, as an organizer, one of the things that I tell new organizers all the time is you probably won't get to do everything that your client, that you think that needs to be done for your client. The client's probably going to stop you way before you would stop on the job if it was yourself. And so that is something that an organizer has to get used to. We can imagine much more space and much more project work to be done to clean up and make it better. And most clients' vision doesn't extend as far as mine does. And so I usually have to stop before I would typically stop in a space. And that's okay. It's just part of the drill. Like I have a different vision than whoever I'm working for. So, and usually what I'm asking them to do is pushing them so far already. Like the idea of imagining what I could imagine is so far down the line for them that they can't even contemplate it. It's too far.
Well,
And sometimes we get
and
back to it, but
and they may also be they're also looking at, well, what I imagined I would spend at the start is this. They may have set an unrealistic limit on the budget,
hmm
unrealistic for how much work they had queued up for you,
right, exactly.
and or maybe dealing with tension with the the with other members of the household about the process.
And the cost and all that. Yeah, it's true. And I think most people don't realize the reason that you haven't done it partially is because it's so much work. And the fact that I'm an organizer doesn't change the amount of work. It just changed my willingness to do it. So it doesn't mean that it's less work for me than it is for you, although I might be faster at it, but I'm still having to do a lot of work. And so it takes time, and time is money, right? So sometimes, the budget gets used up before you get finished with the job. But I do find that most people, if they're happy with the work, even if they have to take a break in between, they'll have me come back and do some more later.
Yeah.
They just need to recover from the process of having their life really disrupted by somebody who tears in there and resets it all.
Well, and we talked a lot about the peeling the onion metaphor, and
Mm,
that you take off a layer, and you have to live with that for a little while before you realize, oh yeah, this is still too much, I'm taking off another layer.
hmm
And then I think there's also we could take the metaphor further. There's also the emotional onion. They have to get used to, okay, my house has less stuff in it than it did before, and there's something about this that makes me uncomfortable. And so
hmm
it there's the time it takes to get used to living in a less cluttered space.
Yeah, for whatever reason that clutter was safety or protection,
Hmm.
and then you break it down and it feels like there's a disruption in the force, right? Like it feels like it's out there disrupting your chi or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. And a lot of people stop because the work that we do forces them to face things that they've been ignoring
Hmm.
about their life, about their relationships, about the divorce, about the parents' death.
About
And
the choices they've made, about the
yeah,
things they tried and let go.
and didn't work out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of self-examination that happens as a result of moving the stuff around. And sometimes people they have to take a break and deal with what's come up before they can let me come in and move some more stuff around.
Yeah.
because I just plow in and start moving stuff around, and I'm reminding them of all the things, all the old pieces of their life that are hiding in the house. And so it can be emotionally disruptive for sure.
What if you, so that's the experience of working with an organizer. What if you want to do the work yourself?
So we also said we talk about that. And so we want you to be able to apply a professional approach to managing your own projects. So let's talk about those steps. I'm going to translate them for your personal use instead. So the very first thing is really an assessment. You need to do this for your own job too, and ask yourself the same questions that an organizer would ask you. Because if you haven't thought through um, these sort of basic understanding of what you're trying to get done, then you sort of plow ahead and end up doing work that you don't want, or doing it in a way that doesn't accomplish what you want. So you want to know these about your own job. What do you want to get done? What's the timeline? And is there a deadline? That's particularly true in a move. There's always a deadline in a move, but there might be some other kind of deadline, like my parents are coming to stay with me for Christmas, or I have to start a new job and I don't want the house to be a wreck when I start the job and I won't have time to deal with it after that, or there's no telling. So you want to know what the timeline is, and if there's some kind of deadline you're pushing against. Who else lives there? Are they helping? Are they participating? Do you have a spouse that refuses to participate? Do you have kids that are, you want to try to educate and coach through participating? Who else is involved? How do you feel about the process? What are your feelings in response to the idea of doing it? And knowing that you're having feelings, and at this point probably negative feelings, but maybe also excitement about, once I get this done, I'm starting a new job, or once I get this done, then I'm going to be able to do this and this and this instead. So there may be some, there may be some bad feelings coming up, and there may be some excitement coming up too. What are you struggling to do about the project? What is causing you problems? What have been your obstacles so far to get you started? What are your first priorities to work on? What are the first things that need your attention and that you want to put some time and effort into paying attention to? Deciding in advance, okay, my bedroom closet is making me insane every day, then that means it's probably should be at the top of the priority list. Pick the area that makes you feel the most confounded and irritated, and try to get that fixed for yourself so you can have some relief. And then what times of the week or the weekend can you schedule an appointment to work on it? And asking yourself that, A, acknowledges that you want to make it a commitment to yourself and to the project, and B, lets you think about, when will I be most mentally focused on this? When's my best time to work and not be running out of steam, and to be making good decisions? When is it going to
Right.
be the least painful for me?
Or to have a million interruptions or
Yes, yes, all that.
yeah, other demands on the
On your
same time.
time. Yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. So schedule those appointments with yourself to work, and schedule any helpers that you plan to use if you've got people coming to help you. And then gather all the tools that you need. You want a trash bag, a recycling bag, a donation bag or bin. Be careful. People tend to go grab the largest cardboard box they can to fill up with donations, except that then no one can lift it. So
Right.
you want it to be able to be, because donations don't just go to live in the bin forever. That receptacle has to be carried out to a car and taken somewhere. So better to have more smaller boxes or bags, and then it's easier to carry them around and maneuver them the way that you need to get them out of the house. If you put out a big, medium size or large moving box and fill it up, then you practically have to hire somebody to come and take it to your car. And then it may not actually fit in your car. You got to think about that. If you use square boxes, and if you open a car door, you will notice that that car door is not actually a square. It's cut in a much more different shape. And so it's not always easy to get the boxes in the car. So keep that in mind when you're, picking donation bags. And pick an area to work. You've set your priorities. This is what I need to do first. Pick that area, set a timer, and get started. And just like an organizer, you want to give yourself the time you need to make decisions, and you want to cut yourself a break. Don't give yourself a hard time. You don't need to be harsh with yourself on top of doing a chore you don't think is fun. So give yourself a little grace here while you're doing the work. Remember, it's okay to work on one area for a while, and you can stop to switch to another area to help give your brain a break and allow you to absorb the emotions that are coming out of the work. I do this with clients when I feel like we're doing something that causes them a lot of stress and anxiety. I don't want to keep pushing them for 3 hours in an area that really is distressing for them. And I can, okay, we're going to work for an hour, we're going to work for 90 minutes, and then let's stop and let's go work on something that doesn't challenge you in the same way. And it allows your brain to rest a little bit. All of
Hmm.
it's still got to get done. And so if I can keep you on it for a little while and then let you go do something that's more restful to you, um, then it'll be easier for you to go back to the first stuff.
Yeah. I was thinking about that this weekend because I was working on the
Because you're
paper
doing
project
paper. Yeah,
I
yeah.
mentioned earlier, and but I also wanted I recognize the limit on how much paper I can handle because the just paper brings up so much emotion for me, because
Mm,
as you're digging through paper, you find reminders. Like I found reminders of a car accident in 2017. Like
yeah.
who wants to look at this stuff? But you have to. And insurance, just all sorts of insurance stuff. Every piece of insurance paper just cranks my anxiety level a little higher.
Right.
So I balanced that this weekend with working in the kitchen, which is more fun because the kitchen has a much clearer objective. I mean, the objective with the paper is clear too. It's get rid of all you can and organize what's left. That's clear.
Yeah.
That's clear enough, except the end point is still a long way down the road for it.
Well, and
Where
the paper is all like it's all the bills that you had to pay. It's the history of all of the I went to the doctor, I wrecked the car, it's all of this life stuff that's writ large
unpleasant
in paperwork. Yeah.
unpleasant adulting is what,
Yes, yes.
your box of paper is like a museum of unpleasant adulting, you know? Every
I
single
love
box
that
of
term so
paper.
much. The Museum of Unpleasant Adulting.
Whereas in the, you know, whereas in the kitchen,
Yeah, that's like,
the end result is a beautiful, organized, functional, efficient kitchen. It's
right?
a much nicer goal to work toward.
Well, and you
And
like being in the kitchen, and for you, all of those kitchen things they represent you making things that you think are fun and that you like the end result of.
yeah, I
100%.
I also had the advantage that Jaime had pretty much emptied he pretty much unpacked the boxes. So there was still a lot of stuff sitting on the counters and the island, but it was out of the boxes for the most part.
Yeah.
And so that helped a lot because I could just see everything that needed to be managed.
And
And
then you just went and put it where you wanted it.
yeah, and I
Mm.
just worked with, I did not buy one single additional bin or basket or rack. I was really trying hard. He kept saying, we could go and get some more stuff. And I was like, let me try and use up everything we've got. Um, and putting in racks to make more space in our pantry for some reason. I don't know why no one can design a good pantry anymore,
Yeah,
but
it costs money to make the pantry work, and yeah,
yeah,
a lot of thought, and most builders don't want to spend time and money on that.
and our pantry has the shelves are in fixed positions. There may be a way to, I mean, sure, there's a way to move them, but it's not easy. It's going to require tools.
Yeah.
And so, we have spaces in the pantry that are maybe, I don't know, 10 inches deep. And then
Mm.
other spaces that I can't show it on screen. I can't get far enough away from the computer. There's these two spaces in the pantry that are just humongously tall. And I had to put racks in there
Ah,
to make them a little more
yeah,
useful.
and therefore not useful at all, right?
Yeah. But
But
alternating between the two
so you're
helps.
doing the brain rest thing, right? Like
Yeah.
you're doing
Yeah.
the museum of uh of annoying, what did you call it? The museum of annoying
Museum of
adulting.
annoying adult, something like that. Yeah.
And then you're going over and working in the kitchen where you feel more at peace and more comfortable. And so I think that's a great idea. And it does, like, you're spending some amount of time doing paper all the time, which is the goal. And eventually you'll stop having to do it. You'll be caught up and you'll just be doing maintenance paper, which is awesome.
Deborah said, read paper. Each individual piece requires action. Getting
Yes.
getting rid of a sofa or table is one decision, which leaves a lovely space in your home. Getting rid
It's
of one paper makes no visible space, but can mean a huge amount of psychological space, and that takes time. So true.
so true. Thank you. Cynthia wrote back, Museum of Unpleasant Adulting.
Oh, there you go.
That's we got
Yeah,
to keep that. I
yeah,
really like that a lot. I think it's a perfect description of every box of paper that you're ignoring is you having to do something responsible or pay attention to, the trail of your adulting life in paper form. And it's
yeah.
it's so true.
Well, and the other thing
Unpleasant
with
adulting.
paper is sometimes you find sometimes you find a box. I don't want to talk about nothing but paper today, but
Right, right.
um sometimes you find a box and you open it up and it's like, nothing, there's nothing in that box but receipts from
Mhm.
20, I don't want to even mention, the year, but a year, let's just say a year so long ago that you can take that whole box and just dump it straight into a garbage bag.
Right?
And but then occasionally you open one up and it's like, oh no, oh no. And like every single piece of paper is something different, you know?
And
It
it
was
was to
clearly a
scramble eyes.
clearly a catch-all.
Yeah.
It was probably the keep box from
Yes.
a paper organizing effort a decade ago,
Hmm.
or 5 years ago.
Right.
Anyway,
Yes, I'm sure the audience can totally relate to you what you're saying. But I appreciate the example of you work on the paper, then you go do something else. Then you work on the paper, you go do something else to keep it fresh and not as punishing.
onerous. Yeah.
Hmm.
Maureen says, I hope there will be merch on your website with Museum of Unpleasant Adulting.
I love that so much. That is awesome. Oh my God, we definitely need t-shirts for that. Yeah,
Okay,
except
let's
that we have to
see.
imply that that's, the boxes of paper that we're
Right.
sorting.
Yeah.
Okay,
You
so we
you
also
were
talked
at
about
uh, you were at allow yourself some space to
yeah,
process
yeah.
any emotions,
You
right?
do want to give yourself that space to process the emotions, but don't let that stop the work if you can help it. So after a moment with your feelings, give yourself, that moment to feel, oh God, this paper, I had that accident and wasn't it terrible? Oh God, this is from my ex-husband. That makes me sad. Oh gosh, this is from my deceased mother. There's all these reasons why you might have some emotional response to the stuff that you're dealing with, and you can allow yourself to feel that, but try not to let it shut you down. And so give yourself a moment for the feelings and then get back to it if you can. If you find that you just aren't ready to face processing something, see if you can pull a small amount of that stuff from whatever this box or bin is that you're pulling out of and pull a little small amount of it out from the rest and go process it somewhere else. Sometimes having it be separate from the full box makes it easier to handle. And maybe that strategy can keep you moving forward. If you stop working because of emotion, then find another declutter task or space that you can do for an hour and then go back to the first thing that stopped you and try again. Sometimes you do a little bit, you get overwhelmed, you can go away and work on something else, and then you can come back to it and you can make a little bit more headway and then rinse and repeat until you can get through the stuff that stalled you the first time. And it doesn't matter if that's all in the same work appointment or if that happens over several days, it really doesn't matter. Everything's moving you forward towards reducing your amount of stuff that you have to keep. So even if you have to do an hour or do 30 minutes in the part that's triggering and go do an hour in the kitchen and then go back, if you have to go back and forth and it takes a few days for you to get through it, that's okay. You're still making forward progress. Um,
Before you go on,
mm,
great comment from Connie that I wanted to share and get
okay.
your take on. She suggested another question to go in your self-assessment,
Mm,
which is ask yourself what went wrong the last time I tried to do this.
Oh, that's a good perspective. If you've been working on it and feeling like you've been working on it and failing at it, what went wrong last time? Why did you get hung up? Why did it stop? And identifying what that is and trying to give yourself a little thought process about how to work around that or how that can be accommodated or dealt with.
Yeah.
Now that you've got a little perspective away from it, you might have a better idea of what to do about it, or recognize that you don't have a solution yet. You need to call somebody and ask for their support, research some answers, get some more information. That's a good point to make. Thank you. Appreciate that one.
Well, and yeah, who or what was the source of resistance? What,
Mm-hmm.
where if you're the source of resistance, what in you is churning up the resistance to organizing this particular project or set of
Yeah,
things?
and making you stop, shutting you down. Yeah, yeah, that's a good point.
Or are you, or is there just a little something? I mean, maybe the answer to that will be, well, I was trying to do this, but I don't have a place to put what I'm keeping,
Hmm.
you know? Um,
So that you have to think through, um, does the stuff that I'm keeping make sense for the amount of storage space that I have or the
yeah,
size of my home? And is the stuff that I'm keeping, it needs its own storage system because I've got so much, or this stuff is really important to me or whatever, that you think through, okay, I don't have a storage system now. What can I do to accommodate the stuff that I'm trying to keep? I would always challenge if you don't have a place to put it. I'm always going to challenge you to say, so tell me what it is. Tell me why you're keeping it. Tell me how you're going to access it. Tell me why it's so important for you to try to figure it out. And a lot of times when I dig deeper, it's just that I don't want to think too hard about this, or I don't want to make choices here. I just want to keep it all without thinking about it.
yeah,
And I can usually challenge that. Talk people out of, help people make choices about what to get rid of easier, and hopefully shrink the population. And then it's down to a more manageable set. And then the options for containing it become broader. There's more options to deal with it because
yeah.
it's not half a room full of stuff like it was when we started.
I want to share another comment. And M said, let's see if I need to scroll back a bit here. M said, just having an organizer define areas for me to work on would be very helpful.
Right?
So the place isn't worse wreck the next day.
Yes. And that
Um,
is that is a reflection of someone who can look at a collection of stuff and they can gauge pretty accurately how long it's going to take to work on it and how much time it's going to take to unpack it all. And so the idea that you ask for someone to come and help you because they have the ability to screen what they're looking at and say, yeah, that's 17 hours, this is going to take us 3 days. Like, we can't do all that in one sitting, because a lot of my clients have a disproportionate view of, they think we can get through this in a lot faster amount of time than they actually can. And so having that person that can filter it and go, no, no, we can't do all that in 3 hours. We can do this in 3 hours, but we can't do that in 3 hours. And then you don't unpack, as you said, you don't destroy and make it worse because you misjudged how much you can get done in a certain amount of time. And so the organizer is going to be able to screen that for you. And if they dig in and say, yeah, I think we can get all this over here done in 3 hours, and you're like, oh my gosh, how can that possibly be? Then you should just trust them, because they are looking at it and telling you that it's possible, because they can see what's there and they know how much time it's going to take. So you're probably right that you couldn't do it that fast on your own, but with them, they're helping you, then you absolutely can get it done, and they're not usually overestimating. And so they're not going to be, they're going to be real with you about how much time they think it can be done. And if they say, yeah, yeah, we can get all this done today, then just trust them and go with it. Even though you can't imagine that it's possible, just trust them and go with it. But if they think that you're over enthusiastic, like that we're going to do the garage in 3 hours. No, we're not. Like, and I've learned, I learned early on to say, to be real about how much time it's going to take, because it doesn't do anybody any good for me to go, oh, well, I don't know whether we can get that done or not. Like, I don't need to be wishy-washy about it. I need to tell you up front, that's not realistic. We can't do all of that. We can clear this counter today, but we can't do the entire kitchen today. There's too much stuff in here. And so, just so that, I mean, that's part of the job, is that the organizer sets realistic expectations about what can be accomplished. And so, you're absolutely right. And having that person will keep you from, like I said, they're not gonna destroy something and walk away. They're gonna work on a part of it and hopefully then be able to pull the stuff out, shut it down, reset it, so that you can still use the room, or so that it's not creating a big pile of clutter in the way between now when she stops and the next appointment shows up. You don't want there to be a big mess at the end. So, that is really part of what they're there to do, is to make sure that you're not drowning at the end of the appointment in too much destroyed mess.
Okay, so I'm going to put you on the spot with a really tough question here, which
Okay.
is, okay, so how does the layperson who doesn't have the budget for a professional organizer learn a little bit of that skill to estimate the time a project is going to take?
So that's a practice makes perfect thing.
Yeah,
So,
and I would think maybe is start small.
yes,
You
absolutely.
know,
Yes,
take a pro allocate 3 hours for a project you think is going to take 45 minutes,
yes.
maybe,
And always, even if you don't have any idea how long it's going to take, I would do something really, really small and see how much time it takes you to do it, because you will learn how fast you work. You will learn how long it takes you to make decisions. You will learn what things you struggle with, and you'll learn the time that goes with that. And so, while you may not know that up front, you can have that experience by picking small projects, one shelf of the linen closet, one, the top of the coffee table, one shelf on a bookcase that's against the wall. Even if it seems ridiculously small, don't worry about it, because it's all in service to you learning, and you're working on stuff that needs to get done anyway. So I would not aim for, I'm going to do the dining room today. Don't pick the room as your target. Pick an area of a room as a target, and pick a small amount to work on and see how long it takes you. And if you pick a shelf and it takes you 10 minutes to get it done, woohoo, you learn something and you can go pick another thing again until you're out of, the amount of energy and focus you have for that work slot. So it doesn't matter if you don't pick an appointment, pick a project that fills exactly the time slot you made. I would aim for picking something much smaller and do it, and then see what kind of time you have remaining and try to pick something again that'll fit in the remaining amount of time. And as you do this, you will learn your own abilities, how long you can stay focused, what kinds of things slow you down, what kinds of things aren't a problem for you. And those will all inform your better decision making later. But until you have that experience and, examples under your belt, start small and never start with, I'm doing the garage today. Like, no, no, I'm doing the
not
bedroom today.
not unless
Not.
you have 12 hours and six people helping you.
Yes, yes, yes. And
Yeah.
even in a room where you don't feel like, it's the bathroom, it's small, how hard can it be? Well, have you opened all the cabinets lately? Yeah, there's way more going on in there than you think. So, go and pick a shelf in the bathroom closet or cabinet and start there and work on one thing. And then stop and see how you feel and see how much time you used up. You may not have used up all the time, but maybe you're wiped out because you felt like that all that stuff was hard to make decisions about. So you'll be learning what kinds of things sort of drain you of energy and what kinds of things are hard for you to make decisions about, and how long it takes you to do something. And, yeah, I can do the whole bathroom in 3 hours, but I'm not intimidated by it. So it's not the same. As long as you're standing there helping me make decisions, so I can ask you, okay, here's a whole bunch of hair things. How much of all this do you want? And, once you take things to throw away and decide what's the stuff that you're actually using, then I can figure out where to put it back and make it work in a 3 hour time slot from a bathroom. But that's asking a lot for you. That's asking you to be able to make all the decisions, pull everything out, decide what you want, and then decide the storage systems on the fly. And that second step, figuring out where everything should go and being able to put it back, that's like a whole nother part of the job. That's like another half of the job. And so sorting through and making keep toss decisions and sorting what you're keeping is one whole process. But then putting it away is a whole nother thought process. And so if you're running out of steam just from the sorting project, you're not going to have anything available to then make reasonable, well thought through storage system choices on the back end. So maybe that's 2 different days, right? Like you have to spend one day sorting everything, and then you have to come back with a fresh brain and fresh rest and come back to it and go, okay, now here's the thing that I decided to keep. Now let's put some thought process to where am I going to put this stuff and how am I going to store it and what containers do I need and what do I use all the time and what do I not use all the time. And so there's a whole bunch of work that goes into putting the stuff away in a storage system that works for you to use it daily. And that's the second half of the job. And so you don't want to come to that. What I see people do is they spend all their time sorting through and getting all the what I'm going to keep done, and then they've got 15 minutes and they're exhausted, and so then it's like they're at the end of the move and they just throw everything back in the cabinet
Yeah.
because to get it out of the way. And like that wasn't your ultimate goal was for that stuff to be organized too. And so if you don't have the bandwidth at the end of your work appointment to do that part, then you're not serving yourself. So put it up in the cabinet with no thought at all, come back to it another day and take it out and then sort and create storage around it. And then you'll end up with the result that you want, which is I know everything is in there, I know where everything is, and I'm happy with the results. Hope that helps.
Anna asks, what's a reasonable minimum appointment time to request for someone who has health issues and can't do 3 or 4 hours even with breaks?
With an organizer.
Right.
So most organizers do 3 hours. Occasionally somebody will do more, and some people do like they go for full days. But that might be around a move, or that might be because you have some kind of a deadline you're trying to accomplish, or because you have a team and the whole team can be deployed and worked everywhere. But if you're just having one person come and it's a standard appointment time, it's likely going to be 3 hours. And if you don't have the stamina, they do. And so part of what their job is to work around you, right? And so they're going to work with you and learn how much time and stamina you have and what kinds of breaks you need to take in order to hang with them. But then they're there to do work around you. And so I can keep myself busy working on stuff, staging stuff, setting things up for their decision making process later while that person rests, while that person, is recovering from standing too long or from bending too much or whatever. I can usually work around that person most of the time. And if you're
Well,
sitting and recovering, I can still give you, some minor decisions to make.
and you'll do virtual appointments for
Mm-hmm.
as little as an hour.
Yes.
And is that
And
true of most organizers?
yeah, I think most organizers do somewhere between 1 and 3 hours online, depending.
Hmm.
Um, and the 1 hour appointment is not that I'm helping you dig in and get something fixed. Usually it's me having you show me the space and talk to me about what your problems are and me making suggestions for how you can tackle the things that are a problem. Me suggesting, okay, why don't you, I see your whole house, so why don't you work on this and let's focus in this particular corner and you can work on that and we can make another point where I sit with you while you go through stuff. I have clients who I get online with and we go through their paperwork together online. And so they're looking at a piece of paper, they're telling me what it is, I'm asking them questions about it. We're going through the museum of unpleasant adulting
Right.
and and making choices, and I'm helping coach them through those choices that they find difficult. And so when one time I helped somebody who was moving in California, and they needed me to help the uh, the person and their spouse make decisions together. They were struggling going through stuff and trying to pack, and they were fighting about what needs to be kept and what doesn't need to be kept. And so
So you
my
were the
job was
mediator.
to, yeah, I mediated a couple of sessions with them to make it easier for them to pack without being upset. And so that online work is often in the form of goal setting, task lists, prioritizing what needs to be done, listing the steps that need to be accomplished, and then going away and letting you do something, and then coming back again and talking to you about what you did, how you found it, what were the results, where are we? Okay, here's a new set of steps, here's a new set of goals, here's a new things you can do. Go away and you do it and come back again. And so it's sort of like I coach you about it, send you away to work, and then come back. Or I coach you about it and we work together online to work on something. And so it doesn't change the work, it just stretches it out and leaves more of it to you than to me. But I can always give you a process, a timeline, help you make those decisions like what should I do first and where should I go and how do I get rid of this and that kind of stuff. I've done that
Yeah.
several times with people.
Okay, I want to share one more comment and then we have to go. We are
Oh,
out
okay.
of time. Jane says, the most valuable help I pay for is taking things away. A
Yeah,
friend has access to huge recycling and trash bins. Periodically, I have him come, treat him to lunch, and then have him take large boxes to recycle and large items not worth donating. He has also helped me take larger items to the Habitat for Humanity restore.
that's
Point
good.
being, point being, there may be value scheduling someone to do just what you can't do easily yourself. Knowing he's coming over also makes him an accountability partner, being ready for
Yes,
when he's coming over.
exactly. And you can hire somebody on TaskRabbit to come and help you. If you've already made the decisions and you just need somebody to get it in a car and take it away, then you can hire that work done for sure and pay by the hour for somebody to come and walk it out to the car and drive it away and come back with a donation receipt. No problem at all. Totally worth it. Then you don't
Okay,
want to live with the boxes.
we're going to be back next week at the usual time, Tuesday, April 29th, noon US Central Time. And we're going to do the next installment in our room by room series. We're going to talk about dining rooms, which I was astonished to find we've never spent an entire episode on in the
I
past.
know that was really surprising.
And I think that's partly because so many people don't use their dining rooms as dining rooms anymore. And we're going to
Right.
talk about that. And we're also going to survey the audience on that. So watch for an announcement of a survey in the coming days because we want to know if any of you actually eat in your dining room.
Or if it's something else.
And then we're going to talk about how to organize the dining room if you're using it as such, or even
Yeah.
if you're not. Gail, why don't you give us the tittle?
Okay, this week's title is called Assess Yourself. This week's assignment is to take the initial step of hiring yourself to work as your own professional organizer, conducting an assessment. Answer the following questions about either your entire home organizing project or a single sub-project or aspect of the job. So here's the list. What would you like to accomplish? What's the timeline and is there a deadline? Who else lives in the space and are they participating in the project? How do you feel about the project? What aspects of the project are you struggling with? What have been your obstacles so far? What are your first or next priorities to work on? What times of the week or weekend are you willing to schedule appointments to work on the project? So do your own assessment of your job, think your way through the answer to these questions, and then come back and tell us about it next week. We're back.
Okay, if you're watching this on YouTube, we'd love for you to join us live. To get notifications about upcoming events, we invite you to join the meetup group by visiting cfhou.com/meetup. You can also follow us on Facebook by visiting cfhou.com/Facebook or join our mailing list by visiting cfhou.com/subscribe. We love to hear from you, so please keep your questions, comments, and topic suggestions coming on YouTube, Facebook, or anywhere that you find us. You can always reach us through the website at clutterfairyhouston.com. Dawn said, I couldn't write down all those steps fast enough. That's okay. We will have them posted on our website in the next day or so, and you'll be able to find them at, I forgot to do this at the beginning, forgot to share the slide, cfhou.com/tcfw252 is where our show notes will be when we get those posted tomorrow or Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
And
We will make it available.
yes.
All right, you guys, we're going to go out. Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be back. We appreciate your bearing with us while Ed was sick and I was out of town, and so we're back on it. My next traveling isn't till the middle of June, so we're good for the next several weeks, and we will see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.